welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Katie, I'm a mixed media artist, and today's video is going to be quite a short one, but hopefully really helpful because I'm going to be talking through all of the equipment that I use to film all my videos and content here on YouTube, Instagram and Patreon. So I have to say I have quite a basic setup and I have built up this equipment through the years. So I started YouTube maybe 3 years ago, possibly longer, sharing on Instagram for years and years and on Patreon for 2 years. So throughout that time I have upgraded some of my equipment, but some things I've had for all of that time. I'm really pleased with how my setup is. I feel like I'm really happy and I don't think I need to upgrade anything. So I'm going to be sharing all the makes and models on the screen as well as down in the description box, and let's jump right into it. So first up, I'm going to talk about the most important piece, which is the camera. Now I can't show you this and do a show and tell because I'm using it to film, so I will be putting some footage over the top of this and talking you through it as we go. So the camera I used to film on is a Nikon DSLR. It's a D3200, so it is quite an old make. I have had this for quite a few years, I think going on 5 now, and I just use the kit lens. But when I am doing my photos for Instagram, I use the 50mm just because I prefer the look that it gets, but obviously it's way too far zoomed in for filming. One of the things to note when you are filming on some of these cameras is that it does have a time limit. So the DSLR that I use has got a 20-minute filming time and then it will stop. So sometimes I have to set timers on my watch just to remind me that if I am filming a really long video, I have to start it again so I don't lose any footage or cut anything off. One of the downsides to the DSLR is that it doesn't autofocus. So when I do my top-down shots and want to do like close-ups to the screen and hold things up, I prefer to use a different camera. So I bought this a few years ago for vlogging. I don't really do vlogs anymore, but this has been really helpful for my Patreon, just to, like, when I am doing my hauls and things, to hold things up, like I said, to the camera, and also not worry. It is also helpful for videos like this because I don't have to worry about it maybe being out of focus, but personally I prefer the SLR footage. I prefer the quality that it gives, but this is still really helpful. And this is the Sony DSC WX500. Again, I'll leave all the models down below, but what I like about this one, as well as the autofocus, is that it does have a flip screen. So again, if you are filming yourself, especially for vlogging or like a face-to-face video, you can have the screen up, which is really helpful. But again, this does have a time limit with footage, so this one is 30 minutes. So again, when I am doing time lapses, especially on Patreon, when I'm talking through my process, I have to set a timer and remind myself to stop this before it runs out and start again. I obviously film onto my memory card and then I transfer the footage onto my computer. Generally, my YouTube videos, particularly the process ones, use a lot of storage, so about 8 GB, so a huge amount of space that it takes up on my computer. And it is starting to become a bit of an issue doing a video a week as well as videos on Patreon. So I do have an external hard drive that I do transfer onto, as well as using Google Drive to back up onto the cloud. Similarly with my photos, I use my DSLR to take my photos for Instagram because my phone is actually quite old and I would really like to buy a new one, but that's separate to this sort of filming setup because I only ever use my phone for Instagram stories. All of the photos that you see on my Instagram grid are taken on my SLR. Now in terms of editing footage and photos, I use Photoshop for the still images and I use Adobe Premiere Pro for the videos. I've always worked with Adobe back when I was a designer, so 15 years ago when I started university, that was what we were taught, and I've just continually used that. I do use Procreate on my iPad when I am doing digital work for clients, but mostly I use Photoshop and I just really know the suite, so I really know what I'm using. And that's what I use for the videos as well. Like I said, I do have a basic setup and I do also edit very basically in terms of my videos. I don't have anything fancy, but for what I'm filming, I think it's totally okay to just keep things basic. And I know that it can be off-putting when people have really fancy equipment and you feel like you need that too. But I did start really basically. I used the SLR that I bought after university and I'm still using it now and I don't feel the need to upgrade. So I just want to make a point here that you don't have to have everything that I have to start. If you have a newer phone than I do, then you can use that, or even some of the older phones have really good video quality. You can just use your phone to film videos. I think the main thing is to just start, and then you can upgrade like I have as you go along. Now onto the audio for my videos, which was one of the things I really thought was important. I was looking at the Blue Yeti, which is a really good starter microphone, but I actually bought the setup I have because I was filming a lettering course and that needed really high quality audio, and that was the one that they recommended. And I'm still using that now. That course came out about 5 years ago as well, and I haven't had any problems with it. This is the mic that I use, and I have that on a Rode boom arm, which just sits onto a little clamp onto my desk, and then I've got that over there, so it's just recording the audio separate to the camera audio, and then I sync it up onto Premiere Pro and delete the camera audio. Now the audio on this camera is a lot better than my SLR. The SLR is very grainy and noisy, so I never use the audio straight from that camera, but sometimes I do on this one, especially if I'm out and about, because obviously I can't take my microphone with me. That is powered by my computer, so it has to be plugged in. And I have this plugged in with the lead, which is one of these, and then it goes into my preamp. This little preamp, I have to admit, I don't really know what it does. I press a few buttons and then I use the software on my computer. It's called Audacity, which is a free program I downloaded off the internet, and it has really great reviews, and for the basic use that I need, I know that there's so many different settings I can change, but for me, I plug it in, I press record and I go. I do edit it a little bit when I'm done, so I do a noise reduction, but I'm not going to go into my whole editing process. If you do want to know any information, then do leave me a question because I'll answer it down below in the comments. So that's my video, photo and audio setup, and now the next thing I want to talk about is tripods. So I have two tripods, one which you're on now, which is actually quite a recent addition. This is like my main tripod that I use, and I received this for my birthday, so it was on my wish list, and I'm really grateful to my parents for buying it for me because it has made life so much easier. The tripod that I used to use, which you can see in this footage here, lasted me really well. I've had that for years, and it was a hand-me-down from my dad. But I did find, because it is so old, that the plastic was starting to get brittle, and some of the knobs that you use to tighten up the legs and to tighten everything in place was starting to snap off, and it was a little bit wobbly. So I upgraded to this K&F concept tripod. This was from Amazon, so I will leave the links down below, but this is super strong and sturdy, and what I really love about it is how tall you can get it, and also this overhead arm, which has been so good. Like I said before, when I do my overhead shots, I use the other tripod and this camera, but it's quite weak. The overhead tripod can really only take this weight of camera. It struggles with the really heavy SLR. Whereas with this one, now that I have this tripod, I can set up the overhead shot and have the big camera going over my desk. Again, I will have to think about the autofocus, but I just really like having that flexibility. And I also know this one is going to be super sturdy, so when I do go plein air and I want to film outside, I won't have any issues with this falling over or going a bit wobbly with my footage when it's really windy. It also folds up really small, and it comes in this little carry case, which is really helpful. And you can take off one of the legs and have it as a monopod, which I don't think I'll ever use, but it's nice to have the option. So this is the second tripod that I mentioned. This is really handy for when I am filming my Instagram stories and doing a time lapse, and when I am doing my footage over on my desk. So this is from Manfrotto. This is a 2-arm clamp, so you can see it's got the 1 and the 2. I got this again for my birthday a few years ago from my sister, and it's really helpful because you can move it around. It's really flexible. You do have to buy the clamps separately. So this is the super clamp, and again, it just goes on my desk, and then I tighten this bit and this bit closes. So it's really sturdy, but obviously when you are like really scribbling with your pencils, sometimes it can affect this and it does shake. So sometimes I will clamp this onto the windowsill instead. Now this at the top, this is a little phone attachment that I bought from Amazon. So like I said, I mostly use this for my Instagram stories. And this does come off just like that, and then I can screw my camera or my SLR onto this. But like I said, this is really helpful for filming on my phone, so I don't have to like try and balance it in my hand and draw. Just having this there over my shoulder, and like I said, it's really adjustable, is really helpful for that. Okay, so the very last thing that I want to talk about is lighting. I prefer to film in natural light. I really like the way that it doesn't cause any shadows, and I just prefer it, and luckily I can film in the day. But when I am filming in the evening, especially with Patreon live calls, I use this new lamp which I was given a couple of months ago in June, and I've been trying and testing out ever since. Now this video isn't sponsored, but it was gifted, so I am going to mark this section as an ad, but I was only asked to mention it on Instagram. So like I said, this isn't biased in any way, but it has been really helpful for giving me extra light, especially when it's been so dull and gloomy here in the UK. I find it really helpful on my Zoom calls, so I actually tend to use it more to light up my face, which is also what I'm doing today. I've put in an extra light over there, so I've got the window here, and I do find sometimes the light is very heavy on this side of my face, and this end of the room is quite dark, especially because it's quite a rainy day today. And I just like the extra light that that gives me and makes the lighting a bit more even. When I'm on my Zoom calls, I have it on my desk over here, and I find that it just lights up my face a bit better, and when I'm doing my YouTube live streams on Patreon, it helps to lighten up the desk as well. A lot of the times I don't actually need the extra lamp because, like I said, I do prefer to film in natural light, but it is helpful to have the option, and even when I'm working in my sketchbook in an evening and I'm not recording it or anything, it's just really helpful to have that extra light to be able to see the colours and work away without worrying about the light. So that's it for this video. I really hope that was helpful. Like I said, I will leave everything I've mentioned, including all the information for the models, down below in the description box. If you do have any questions and if I've missed anything out, please do let me know in the comments. And I really hope you enjoyed this one. Like I said, I don't think you need all of it to get started, and I have built up my collection over the years. So if you want to know on any really basic things that I started with and would recommend, again, I will answer you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a creative week, and I will see you next Sunday with a new YouTube video. See you later.